Welcome to the Future Proof Leader podcast. My name is Chelsea Baldwin. I'm the co-founder of Twin Legacy Solutions, where we automate your pipeline, elevate your leadership, and future-proof your team. Today, we're joined by another exciting guest. We have Melva LaJoy Legrand. Did I get it right?
You nailed it.
She's the CEO and founder of LaJoy Creative. And she's actually joining us from Paris, which is amazing. That's a first for us. So very cool. We're going to dive into her expertise and her insights as a business leader and specifically about overcoming challenges as a leader. So thanks so much for joining us. I'd love, before we jump into some questions, if you could just kind of kick us off, just kind of tell us about yourself, your background, and then we'll dive into some questions.
Sure. I think what I'll share today, and hi everyone who's watching this, thank you so much, and I'm so grateful to be here. So I first fell in love with this industry, event industry, over 25 years ago. But my first career was actually education. And to open up the conversation, what I will say about this this career that I have built is when I was in education and I loved my students. I have been to some of my students' weddings, but I knew it wasn't my authentic space. I knew that it wasn't what I was meant to do in this world. And so I made the career switch to diving in, being self-taught as an events management professional. And the ethos of LaJoy Creative, which was just renamed last year, very proud of it. But the ethos is that we are in the business of being storytellers, a creative collective for organizations and individuals doing good in the world.
Okay.
That's a little bit about me professionally. Now, personally, yes, I'm calling from Paris. I am married now 5 years. I am the proud daughter of two amazing parents who had a love story of 60 years.
Wow.
Until my father died in 2021. And I am, in my mind, a part-time boxer. That's what I do for fun.
Wow. You have a lot of stories, I bet.
Oh, you have no idea.
Maybe we could dive into some of those. Well, that's amazing. And again, thank you so much for joining. I think it's really cool that you're willing to do that across the world and to talk about your leadership journey. So I want to dive in. Every company, when you're starting out, there's a specific problem that the founder feels compelled to solve. Looking back at your early days, what was one of those kind of non-negotiable values or missions that you refused to compromise on? And how do you think, kind of looking back at that, how does that still show up today with your organization?
This is an excellent question. Wow. So thank you for making me think at 8 o'clock. And I'm grateful that it's dry January, but I digress. What I will say is this. Early on, because I was in education, because I was raised by parents who believe that service is a way that you're to be in the world, I knew pretty clearly and early on that I wanted to do this work for nonprofits, for associations, for causes that help all of us do all of the things. I knew that, right? But the challenge, and I would say the opportunity, is how can you be in the business of storytelling for organizations who are not your Fortune 500 companies and have the big budget? And so what I would say is I think I know this business has found a sweet spot, and that we have found a way to pair the importance of telling the story for whether it's a juvenile justice organization, an education organization, you name it, across a variety of sectors, and do it in a way where we use the financial resources that they have, right? That was the problem. How can I give that quality multi-million-dollar experience with organizations that are so deserving? And I've got to tell you, I have the best clients. They have the biggest hearts, but sometimes there are very real financial considerations. And that's what I sought out to do and have done and will continue to do.
I love that. Yeah, I think I would love to learn more about that as we keep diving in. So I know that your company has it sounds like has scaled quite a bit. What was one win or milestone that your team hit that made you kind of stop and realize, wow, like we're not just a startup anymore. We're not the small player anymore. We're actually shifting the industry and actually, doing this at a high level.
I think there's a couple. And I actually think it's after COVID, right? Like if you are in business and if you're in this business and you survived COVID, that alone could be the end of the conversation,
Yes.
right? And so a lot of people know that during the COVID season where nothing other than virtual events were happening, every day I would get dressed for work. Now, here's the thing, there was no work. My husband would look at me and he said, why are you, dressed, head to toe dressed, right? And then one day, about 18 months later, because that is how things opened up where I was, it started to begin.
Mm-hmm.
And one project that stands out to me is in 2019, I attended, maybe it was 2018, I attended a women's summit at the Smithsonian. I was delighted. I was like, this is fantastic. And it was so gratifying. Well, fast forward to years later, through a partnership with another company, I was working on that event.
Wow.
And so it's moments like that. I think what people don't realize is sometimes you'll find yourself in situations when you're in the room as an attendee or you're in the room as a volunteer, and then something changes and you are managing the room. And I will say there are multiple moments, that being one distinct example, where who I was in the room shifted.
Mm-hmm.
Another example, I have three, sorry.
No.
Another example is last year, I was honored that LaJoy Creative was selected to be the executive producers for United Way's Centennial Concert. I was honored. I was delighted.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I started my journey when I shifted careers at a radio station as I'm being nice, as an unpaid intern doing all of the grunt work.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then for that concert, I wrote the script, I did the direction, I had a 40-person crew. So it's moments like that. And the last one I will say, and I should say thanks for coming to my TED Talk, is last year our community service event was for a shelter in New York for homeless women. And some of those women are experiencing domestic abuse.
Mm.
I was that woman 25 years ago, getting an eviction notice and navigating an abusive relationship. So to answer your question authentically, I don't know that there's a specific moment, but I think any leader, if they're being honest, they have confirmation along the way that they're meant to keep going, even if it's hard, even if it's COVID, even if you're operating in the red. And that's what happened to me.
Love that. I mean, just with your story too, right? Like you started as an unpaid intern, and there's hope, right? Like, don't give up because you just never know where life's going to take you. And that it takes some risk, calculated risks, right? But it's risky going out on your own because you never know. But to truly fulfill your passion, that's what it takes. So thank you for sharing that. As you look at your company's roadmap this year, still very early in 2026, obviously, what's the biggest internal or external bottlenecks? Knock on wood, hopefully it's not a COVID again, right? But what are some of those bottlenecks that you kind of see as you navigate this year?
I think internally, if I'm being honest, in some ways I'm the bottleneck. And I'm the bottleneck because LaJoy Creative, which has my namesake, is my business baby. I never had children. I have given LaJoy my all in terms of resources, time. I have sacrificed for my baby, right? And so, in that, it means that sometimes, and thankfully, I am growing out of this. I hold on to things that I need to let go in
Mm-hmm.
order for the business baby to fully blossom. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm very grateful to have a patient team who has allowed me to develop systems so that I can set them up for success.
Mm-hmm.
Because if this business, I am very clear, this is for any leader, if your business is built on your strengths, it will fail.
Mm-hmm.
It will fail. And it's an egotistical endeavor. But if you're in the business of doing good work for the sake of gathering people, for the sake of creating access for the next generation, you can't afford to be the bottleneck. So I would say internally, we're refining systems so that the LaJoyosphere, as I call them, can deliver excellent work across all of the clients.
Okay. I'm huge on systems. My background's, coming from the big companies like Tesla and whatnot before we went out on our own and took the risk, right, to pursue our passion, which, similar story, right, where you're not in the right industry or job and you have this calling. Similar story for me and my partners as well, but systems, I'm big on them. I've seen them, what they can do and how they help you to scale at the pace you want to scale. They're super, important. That kind of leads me, I wasn't really going in this direction, but talking about systems, AI is big in 2026. Obviously, it's been a big thing for several years now, but there's a lot of, I mean, even just this morning watching it on the news, they're talking about it, of how to monetize it and this and that. And with your industry and what you do, how do you see that changing maybe your landscape or how you're incorporating that into your daily culture?
So it's already happening, right? So a lot of our approach, and we consider ourselves experienced experts or experienced architects, requires that we take a analytical view in how we design design events, they're intentional. And so a lot of what we do is pretty detailed reporting on trends in the event industry, what's working, even though it's not our direct service area, what's working in fundraising, because we do a lot of galas. We use, I'm going to be honest, and I think other people do this too, we use AI as a thought partner.
Mm-hmm.
It makes us more efficient in producing quality reports and recommendations for our clients. So I would say right now we're using it to maximize our productivity. The other layer is we're not using it exclusively. So there's never a moment, and I think that's where people get it wrong, like, answer this question. And they're like, done. Like, we definitely put our spin on it. But our AI colleague has been a tremendous resource so that we can broaden the scope of our knowledge. We learn something new every day.
Yeah, I agree with that, using it as a thought partner. And obviously each industry is going to use it a little bit different, right? Depending on what their goal is and how they operate. But I think that, of course, there's the fear of it replacing certain roles. But I think that enhancing is really where most of the leaders I talk to, we talk to a lot of CEOs and founders, and not a single one of them, even when we're off recording, right? I know you probably wouldn't say on recording, but when we continue our conversations afterwards, or if they work with us, their goal isn't to replace people with it. It's to enhance them and to drive their productivity and to use them as thought partners, exactly like what you said. So I think that's pretty common, even though I know there's a lot of fear around it. But I think that we're gonna hash that out as time goes on and people see it's an enhancer.
And I think we're going to have to, because I think that any employee or any leader, if you like, why wouldn't someone be around? Well, chances are it's because they're resistant to change. They're
Mm.
not innovative. They're not nimble.
Mhm.
That's not about AI. That's about you.
Mhm.
And sometimes in work, you do have to board the train. You
Yeah.
do have to board the train and get the right tools and education to equip you to be on the train. But if you're not willing to get on the train,
Mhm.
you kind of miss the moment. And
Right.
AI, you can't miss this moment.
No, you cannot. That is for sure. And we talk about that a lot too, is you don't want to miss the boat. It's too hard to catch up. It's rapidly evolving every single day. If you're not on the boat already, you're gonna have a hard time catching up. You need to sprint at this point if you're not already on the boat to catch up. So yeah, I agree with you. And I think not just from like organizations, yes, they need to implement it, but people too, like you were saying, individuals need to challenge themselves, get out of their comfort zone, learn some new skills, learn some new tools. There's so many tools out there that are free that you can just use. Just to explore, So, yeah, absolutely. Well, I know we're coming up on time here. I like to kind of end this topic with just asking, is there, and you already shared a couple of really great stories. Is there one story that really comes to mind about your leadership journey that you think really tells a fantastic story that you want to share?
I have so
It's a
many
broad one, and I get
stories.
on it. It could either be a great example, or a lot of times we get like a really really bad leader that you had one day and what you learned from it. We get some of those too.
I got one. I got
Yeah.
one. It's one that I haven't shared in a
Ooh,
while.
yes.
But there was a time in my career, in my previous career, where I had a supervisor who, this is an example of what not to do.
Yeah. We love it.
We were having a debrief on a project, and I was the most junior person in the room, and I asked a question. Now, this particular supervisor, I would learn, was not interested in anyone asking questions because inevitably he knew it all, which, by the way, is not a thing. After that particular interaction, he became highly inappropriate with me, and at which point I went to a mentor, an older woman who I thought I could trust, and what she said to me was, "Now, Melva, he's been here for 25 years. This is just what he does. You're a pretty girl. Smile, like you're gonna go far. Just kind of eat it, right?" Well, this particular woman never met my mother, Joyce Kennedy. And I called my mom because I was afraid. I'm new in work. I called my mom, and my mom said, "Where are you?" And my mom came to that job and packed me up,
Mm.
said some choice things to this individual, and I'm terrified. And my mom said to me, with all of her fire, she said, "You're going to be okay because there is a space for you in rooms that value your gift."
I
And I was
love
like,
that.
"Mom, what gift do I have?" And then 11 days later, I got a new job. So
There you
there
go.
are two lessons for folks listening to this story. Number one, choose your mentors wisely.
Mhm.
Age is not an indicator of professional excellence,
Mhm.
emotional maturity is. And number two, always, always listen to your mom.
Of course. I tell my 3 kids that. Well, on that note, I love that. That's a great story. And I'm gonna make my kids listen to that part.
Always listen to
I know, I believe it. Well, Melva, this has been a really fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed your stories. I think that they really added a lot of value, and it's fun to hear stories too, and not just go through these questions and just talk about hypotheticals. Like your real world life experience. Thank you for diving into that. I really appreciate you coming on the show. If you want to give your company a final kind of shout out, how people can learn more about you or your company, please feel free.
Thank you. Thank you. And for everyone who's listening, I'm so grateful. I first want to give a shout out to the best team to do it, the LaJoy Sphere. You are magic. You can get to know LaJoy Creative. See us on our website, lajoycreative.com. We're on Instagram at LaJoy Creative, YouTube at LaJoy Creative. And if you want to hear more of my stories, I promise to share all of the good, the bad, and the mess. You can find me on Instagram at BeLaJoyful. Be LaJoyful. Thank you again, and everybody have an amazing 2026.
Thank you.